So basically, it's free to businesses that are looking to find a digital marketing agency or consultant focused on SEO mostly, but also, conversion rate optimization, PPC, Facebook ads, that sort of thing. And basically, we help businesses put together the right project and then get them introduced to the right people.
Do you want to impact the world and still turn a profit? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Growth Everywhere. This is the show where you'll find real conversations with real entrepreneurs. They'll share everything from their biggest struggle to the exact strategies they use on a daily basis. So if you're ready for a value-packed interview, listen on. Here's your host, Eric Sue.
Before we jump into today's interview, if you guys could leave a review and a rating and also subscribe as well, that would be a huge help to the podcast. So if you actually enjoy the content and you'd like to hear more of it, please support us by leaving us a review and subscribe to the podcast as well. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. Today we have John Doherty, who is the founder of Credo. I'm going to let him explain what that is in a second. But John and I think I remember meeting you. I think I wrote an answer on Quora a long time ago. It was like an SEO answer. And you came in and I think you actually corrected me and you were right. So that's how we met initially. I don't know if you even remember that.
Man, I don't, but that's funny to hear.
Yeah, I think you were at Distill back then. But yeah, John, how are you doing, first of all? And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me, Eric. I appreciate it. Been a big, what did they say, long-time listener, first-time caller. So I've listened to Growth Everywhere for a long time now. Super jazzed to be here. And yeah, I'm doing well, man. Just it's actually a beautiful day here in Denver. It was really hot, and then it got rainy for about a week, and now it's beautiful outside. So can't complain at all.
Great, Matt. Well, we're going to have to do this and then let you off and then go enjoy the weather. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of who you are and what your background is first off?
Yeah, so I've been in digital marketing for about 8 or 9 years now. My background is actually I was trained as a technical writer and a front-end web developer in university in Virginia, where I'm from. And since then, I've taken a bunch of steps, bunch of jumps, a bunch of different paths. But basically, I've done everything from being a tech support specialist and consultant out of my straight out of university in my first job, to helping to run a company from Switzerland, a book publishing company, bootstrap book publishing company, actually. And that's where I got into SEO and digital marketing. And then I've worked for a couple different agencies, one in Philly, one in New York, Distilled, as you said. I was there for a couple years, and then worked in-house and ran marketing and grew a marketing team at hotpads.com, owned by Zillow, and then ran growth on Trulia Rentals for about 6 months. And then I actually got laid off and started working for myself almost 2 years ago now.
Great. And so, what is the impetus behind Credo? What is it?
Yeah, so Credo is it's best thought of as a subscription marketplace. So basically, it's free to businesses that are looking to find a digital marketing agency or consultant focused on SEO mostly, but also conversion rate optimization, PPC, Facebook ads, that sort of thing. And basically, we help businesses put together the right project and then get them introduced to the right people. And our business model is we get paid by agencies and consultants that are receiving, they call them leads, I call them projects, potential clients from us.
Got it. Awesome. And so how's the business doing today?
It's doing well. It's grown really well over the last 6 months. It's taken some leaps and bounds. I've been working on it full time for about 2 years now. So it's been an interesting learning curve. It's my first real business that I founded and grown.
Awesome. And what kind of numbers can you share around the business?
Yeah, so the business right now, the site itself does 13 to 14,000 unique visitors a month, up sizably from last year, and about half of that is SEO driven. And revenue-wise, the software business does anywhere from 23 to 27K a month, combination of subscription and some commissions that we get for some projects that we send.
Nice, that's a good chunk of change. So
it is.
Yeah, when you were first starting out, so like you went from SEO, and then I think you coded everything up by yourself, right?
The initial parts of the system for sure. I now have a part-time developer that builds out. It's a lot more complicated stuff now that we're building. So he takes care of all of that. And I've actually recently tried to pull back from, writing a lot of code and building product myself, and actually learning to be a CEO and learning to delegate.
Yeah, no, that's super important. But the early days of you having to build everything, come up with the concept, and then, do customer service and sales as well. How did that process feel, and how did you, what are some lessons you learned?
Man, it was hard. It was really hard, to be honest with you. After getting laid off, I kind of had to figure out how to cover my bills at first. So I actually picked up a bunch of consulting. And then I really hadn't written code in a few years. And so getting back into just the basics, right? HTML, CSS, but also learning a lot more PHP and JavaScript, a lot of trial by fire and trial by error. And really, I think the biggest lesson I took away from that, which I've continued into other areas of the business, is asking people for help and being okay with sharing your story, publicly and saying like, hey, I've been working on this thing, for a couple hours and I'm hitting a wall. Can someone help me? And I've had so many awesome, developers and business mentors and such kind of reach out and have been really just instrumental to my business.
Awesome. And yeah, you've been really transparent along the way. And I think there have been moments where there's been spikes where, maybe like a PR spike where you just kind of get a big lift from everything. I mean, can you talk to some of those where you kind of just, there's that one moment and then, just kind of grew from there?
Since I started working on this full time, I've rebranded and I've pivoted the business model. And both of those came, the rebranding came because I was actually completely accidentally, naïve first-time entrepreneur. I was violating someone's trademark. And so I received a cease and desist the day before Thanksgiving 2015. And so I rebranded 2 months later, which was, it's a little bit of a hiccup along the way. But the biggest step changes have definitely happened when I've taken big swings as opposed to iterating. I'm a big fan of iterating and testing things and all of that. But the biggest step changes have been shifting my business model, which happened because my revenue was going the wrong way when all the other metrics were going up. So that there was definitely something broken there. And so I talked to a guy that's become a mentor, Chris Lemma, who's big in the WordPress space. And he was basically like, you need to change your business model. And here's how I do it. And I did it. I basically went from revenue going down about 20% month on month to I hit six figures in annual revenue about 6 months later in September 2016. And it's grown from there. And then just recently basically re-architected my website from a technical SEO perspective, and SEO traffic has improved handily, like 3 to 4x. 2 pages that actually convert into projects on the platform. And it's done, it's done really well, but that took me and my developer about a month and a half to 2 months to get right. And it's still not quite right, but it definitely a big step forward.
Great. And so what was the model before and what is it now? 'Cause my understanding from before, I think it was mainly referral and then you get a percent or something like that, but you can correct me.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was referral. And then when an agency closed business, we got a percentage of that fee, right? So if a business, so it was 10% of, if it was an ongoing project, it was 10% of the first 3 months. Mm-hmm. So if a business was paying an agency $5,000 a month, we got basically $1,500 total, $500 a month for 3 months. That was challenging because, basically half of the projects that we were generating, or more of the projects we were generating, weren't closing into business. So we were being compensated for like 40% of our effort, right? And I couldn't really affect, whether a business would change, or would close a client, right? I couldn't affect their sales process,
right?
Other than sending them better projects, but that was just incremental, right? Not like these big changes I was talking about. So that worked to get initial traction and kind of to realize what the problems were, and then moved to this subscription model, which basically now agencies and consultants, they pay for access to the platform, to projects that are on the platform, and they pay different amounts every month depending on how many projects they want to contact. So $100 a month for up to 3 contacts, and it goes up from there.
And a contact is a lead, right?
A contact is a lead. So it's we generate a project, it's set live on the platform, and then the person subscribed, I call them customers, agency or consultant, sees it there, and they can contact them through the platform. And so that contact is what I'm talking about. Yeah. So basically a lead getting in touch with a potential client.
So let's say I want to pay $100 or so a month. Am I able to specify the criteria I'm looking for? Like $100 a month, for 3 Fortune 500 contacts, I think anybody would pay for that, right? So what does that look like?
Totally. So it's all a balancing act, right? So businesses can, an agent can get on and say that, they're paying $100 a month. And also I very much restrict supply on the site. So number of agencies and consultants on there, simply because I want everyone that's on there to have, to be successful. So agencies consultants can say like they just do SEO, PPC, Facebook ads, and their minimum budget is $4,000 a month, right? But there are a lot of projects out there that are like $1,000 or $2,000 a month. So if their minimum is $1,000 a month, they're going to get more potential opportunities than someone whose minimum is $5,000 a month. But if that person that only works on $5,000+ a month projects closes one project every 3 months, it more than pays for itself, right? So it's a whole quantity versus quality play, and that's definitely been a challenge in the business, and something that I'm continually thinking through about, what the right business model is really long term for this business.
Got it. Okay, great. And what are the goals for the business in the next, 5 years or so?
It's a great question. Honestly, I probably won't be running this business in 5 years, but I really want to. My goal when I started this business was really to to help businesses find the right agency or consultant to work with. So I'm really focused on that and on the matching that we're doing. At this point, I want to keep growing it. I want to realize, that vision of sending business to to agencies and consultants that are really, really good at what they do, and not sending it to people that, are just going to take their money and run. So it's a constant, battle to do that. So a lot more on the vetting side of agencies and consultants. And then we've taken a much higher touch approach to projects that come in, figuring out what they need, what they can pay, what their experience is with whatever service it is that they're saying that they need, what their expectations are, and then helping recalibrate those expectations and then making connections. So I think in the future, we're going to do a lot more around, really helping agencies close better work is going to be a focus there as well.
When you started out, it sounded like you were doing some consulting to kind of make ends meet. But for Credo itself, how did you acquire, let's say, your first, 100 customers or so?
Yeah, so the first 100 customers, first 100 businesses looking to find an agency or consultant, those honestly came through my network. I started this business in its first incarnation about 4.5 years ago, February 2013, because I had just gotten out of doing freelance consulting myself and needed a place to send people that were coming to me through my site, through my personal site, wanting to work with me, and I wasn't taking on work. So I actually had a blog post published yesterday on entrepreneur.com talking about how I started my business on a spreadsheet. And so really it was people coming to me through my site, agencies referring people to me, and I had a spreadsheet of people that I sent work to, and then realized that, hey, the lead business is actually a big business. And so sent a project to my buddy who runs an agency in Utah, and he paid me $50 for the intro, and he closed the business, and I went and bought a domain name. So really, nice. It started all from my network, right? I'm building a business in the industry that I've been working in for a long time. So I know a lot of people there. And so it's been interesting that it's kind of gone from, agencies and friends sending me projects. It's personally, introducing me to my personal email, right? To now, it's a full site built out and getting, projects from, all over the place, from $1,000 a month, SEO projects for real estate agents, all the way up to I've sent projects that have paid agencies 25 to 30 grand a month.
Nice.
So it's it's kind of a smattering all over the place, but where projects come from has definitely shifted, and I'm always testing new things to try to drive more projects.
That's awesome. So you said that, I guess the lowest subscription tier is $100. What are the other tiers?
So the other publicly announced ones are $200 a month and $375 a month. And then I have a couple higher tiers as well, which are more we make personal introductions for agencies to potential clients that that we vetted out, that have budget and correct set expectations and all of that stuff.
Got it. Okay.
And I open it up 2 to 3 times a year for new agencies and consultants to be on the platform.
That's cool. So there's a scarcity thing.
Exactly. So I can send out a drip email that I actually learned a lot of the copywriting techniques from Ramit Sethi, from all the stuff that he's written.
Yeah.
And basically we'll send it out, and I can get I'll open up 10 spots and say, but I'm chatting with 20 and then making a decision, and those 20 will fill up in 6 hours.
Awesome. That's incredible. And so,
yeah.
You basically, you probably have around, give or take, maybe around 150 paying customers a month right now. Is that around the right range?
It's fewer than that. It's actually around 70 to 75.
Okay. Got it. Because you have the higher tiers.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. Okay. So, let's talk about SEO for a second. You're getting 13,000 visitors a month, and, it's pretty competitive being in the marketing space. So, how are you making it work for you on the SEO side, and what else is working in terms of customer acquisition?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on the SEO front, as you said, it is a pretty competitive space, and obviously, every SEO agency is doing SEO for themselves, and every content marketing agency is trying to rank for, content marketing agency in city. And I definitely have some competitors as well that are more like marketplaces too. But really, my strategy right now is I'm going at the long tail. So, it's going to take a while to rank for, the head term SEO consultants, which really doesn't have that much traffic, but 500-ish searches a month, which isn't anything to sneeze at. But, basically where my mind goes is it worth putting all my time and effort into this, one keyword, this one, page to rank that then if I lost a ranking, then my business is hurting. Or, should I go to the long tail? So I've gone to the long tail, and actually that big update that I shipped out a couple weeks ago is focused on, now I have pages for like San Francisco, California content marketing agencies, right? And a page dedicated to that. And only people that are in San Francisco that do content marketing and are an agency are listed on that page. I've very much like expanded the pool of keywords that I can rank for. I went from about 400 pages on my site that could rank to over 3,000 now in one fell swoop. And it's definitely helped. And, and now I'm really pounding the, content marketing links, et cetera, trained to rank better across all of these, all these lower volume, less competitive, but also convert really, really well keywords.
You kind of strike me as a guy that is very optimized and then, very productive. So I don't usually ask this question, but how do you, what are some productivity hacks you have? How do you structure your day?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm a big fan of Paul Graham's maker schedule, manager schedule way of thinking. And, as a solo entrepreneur with a small team, I don't have any other full-time employees. I very much have to, I've done a lot of testing actually around my schedule and when I'm most productive. I started about 5 months ago waking up super early. I heard Noah Kagan talking about it and started waking up at like 5 a.m. Not this week because I've been a bit sick, but I'll wake up early. I'll get a bunch of work done from about 5:30 once I have a cup of coffee in me to about 8 a.m. I don't check email until 8. And then I also don't schedule phone calls before 8. So basically 8 to 12, I'm, talking with potential, businesses that we're trying to match up with agencies or consultants. I'm doing stuff like, podcasts like this. I'm writing if I have time. And then in the afternoon or, Tuesdays, I have phone calls with my own like personal consulting clients. I still have a couple of those. And in the afternoon, I don't do phone calls. And that's for writing. It's for building product. It's for managing, developers building stuff. It's for business ops. So I very much like found that the morning is when I'm awake and I'm ready to talk to people. And then the afternoon is when I'm ready to go to a coffee shop and focus. And I actually switched that for a couple of weeks about a year ago. And it was awful. I had a terrible couple of weeks and I switched it back. And productivity went right back up. So I've done a lot of testing around it. And I very much try to be, as focused as I can in those times that I have blocked off for the different things that I can do at that time.
Right. Yeah. I think it's all about blocking off time. And when I look at my calendar sometimes, and actually I heard this from Ramit a couple weeks ago. I think he wrote an email, but basically he blocks off time to just, for his most important things. So then if it's in his calendar, it gets done. And then, from other people, I kind of steal and then kind of, combine things. So I have this Frankenstein calendar now, but Fridays are for strategy days, right? Mondays are for meetings and things like that. So, or one-on-one. So yeah, totally agree with that. I think that's, if you're very deliberate with your time, then you're going to make the most of it. And I think most people kind of just run around with their like a chicken with its head cut off. So super helpful. What is one new tool that you've added in the last year that's added a lot of value? So it could be like Evernote. Yeah,
so it's actually an SEO tool. So I've been a long time SEMrush user. Obviously, I've used Moz's tools for a long time. And everyone had been telling me, they're like, try Ahrefs. I'm like, whatever. I don't need Ahrefs. I have SEMrush. I have Screaming Frog. I have all these other tools. And I signed up for it about 3 months ago, and it's my go-to. It's become my go-to. It's more expensive, than the others, but like it gets me so much insight. And it's just been absolutely valuable for, my client work, my work on Credo, all of that. So yeah, that's the tool that I've added in. And then the other one for productivity is Calendly. So, I can send someone a link and be like, hey, can you grab a time here on my calendar that works for you? And I obviously have those set up that they can't schedule in the afternoon and whatever. And that's really helped instead of like, going back and forth with 5 or 6 different times that might work. They can just grab a time and schedule it. And then, I hop on the phone with them when they've scheduled it.
Love it. Yeah. Ahrefs or, Ahrefs, whatever if we want to call it. But, I mentioned it a lot with Neil on our other podcast. It's probably the most mentioned tool, but, it's a tool that I open every single day, even though I don't do a lot of SEO work. I just like looking at stuff. Neil actually does the same thing too. So can totally vouch for that. Same thing with Calendly. Great tool. What's one must-read book that you'd recommend to everyone?
I think this your audience has probably heard this many, many times, but the 4-Hour Workweek has been like the biggest game-changing book for me in my business life. I actually reread it about every 6 months, every 4 to 6 months, just because I get new stuff out of it every time. So yeah, that's like that and The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz. If you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of struggling, kind of feeling alone, why is this so hard? read that book and you'll feel a lot better about your life.
Yeah, interestingly enough, the hard thing about hard things is the most recommended on this podcast. I don't think the 4-hour work week has ever been mentioned. Maybe once out of 250 plus interviews.
Wow.
So it's like reversed. So yeah, hard thing about hard things by far and away number one. But yeah, I mean, I totally endorse it. And usually I don't ask this question, but since you listen to podcasts, what's one podcast that you listen to aside from this one that's one of your go-tos?
The one that I've recently, there are two that I listen to. One is Noah Kagan Presents. I think Noah's a super smart guy, and he has really interesting guests on there that I learn a lot from. And then the other one is Creative Live with Chase Jarvis. He has a lot of just interesting creative people on there. I always have to skip about 5 minutes in because he has a really long intro. But once he actually gets into speaking with people, it's just absolutely fascinating stuff. Entrepreneurs from many different industries, fashion and whatever, that, I don't have any, I have no dogs in that race, but the way that they're building their business and stuff that they're thinking about, and just being really creative in their called Creative Live, right? Being really creative in how they're building their business, how they're, their visions and all of that. It's always really really inspiring. I always take one or two good nuggets away that it's not a go and implement it sort of thing, but it's I actually really need to think about that. And that's actually going to change the trajectory of my business sort of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to add that to the list. I've actually never actually thought about listening to that one, but I'm subscribed on YouTube, so I'll add that. So John, I mean, this has been awesome. What's the best way for people to find you online?
Best way to find me online is on Twitter, at DohertyJF, DohertyJF. I spend a lot of time on there, but I recently deleted the Twitter app from my phone, all social media apps, and it's been awesome for my productivity as well. So Twitter is the best, and then getcredo.com, GETCREDO.com is my website. Google my name, and you can find my personal website. I write a lot there around productivity and entrepreneurship, some around SEO, but less than I used to. So yeah, that's where to find me.
Awesome. John, thanks so much for doing this.
Eric, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Growth Everywhere. If you loved what you heard, be sure to head back to growtheverywhere.com for today's show notes and a ton of additional resources. But before you go, hit the subscribe button to avoid missing out on next week's value-packed interview. Enjoy the rest of your week, and remember to take action and continue growing.